So every time I saw the ICT Academy team today, the only question I had is, how do you do it? In 10 years, to bring 2,000 institutions and 101, got added today, so I'll say 101 corporate partners, and have this session. And I asked the CEO, I said, how do you do it? And his answer was, this is a smaller conference. The bigger one happens in Chennai. I'll just spend about 10-15 minutes talking about many of the things that actually some of the speakers have spoken. And I was thinking, why is it the case? Then I realized I'm an Oracle certified database administrator in the mid-90s. And my campus recruitment was at TCS. And I figured, there is some connection today in terms of the speakers who have gone before me. Let me start with this survey that was done by a very reputed institution in the US that asked this very simple question: which one of these institutions or organizations do you trust more? There were 6 choices: educational institutions, trade unions. Madam is already shaking her head. Trade unions. Religious institutions, temples, churches. She's shaking her head, yes. So I can see that kind of. Banks, no, especially in India after what's happening in the last few weeks, no. I think they're very trustworthy, especially if they're running technology-based, definitely. Technology companies as a group, and media, right? So I'll give you the answer, but I just wanted to know, can we get the unanimous number 1 here? What do you think? If I'm going by a survey here, it seems like people trust religious institutions, educational institutions. You'd be surprised by the results. Religious institutions are obviously on top of the list, no doubt. We're kind of born into those religions, and you kind of have that trust earned from birth. But what I found really interesting was that technology companies as a group have earned the same level of implicit trust that religion has earned over thousands of years. Technology companies have been able to get it in about 20-25 years. That's one way of looking at it. Of course, what's last in the list, I will make no comments about it. But the other way of looking at this is, when do you go to religion, those of you who are believers? When you have given up, when you're in trouble, when you've kind of exhausted all other options, and you go. The way I looked at this result was, is that how we're looking at technology now? And hence the trust level for technology companies is at the same level as religion. That, we're looking at technology to solve problems, as Manu had said, in all the verticals: journalism, education, healthcare, sanitation, transportation, that have not been able to be solved in other ways. And is that the reason why perhaps technology companies have earned that level of respect and trust among the people? This is a very reputed survey conducted by the Pew Research Institute. One of the other reasons that I was thinking about is perhaps there is also the element of change. Many of the speakers before me spoke about that. Everything around us is changing. I will not repeat some of the things that have been already discussed, but perhaps looking at the future of work. Professor Agarwal talked about this. The student who is entering your college, she won't know what kind of employment she's going to get 4 years from now when she graduates. That's been the case for the last few years. The job descriptions have been changing. The gig economy, you've heard of a lot of it. There are positives of the gig economy because someone can work from home and do various things. The negatives are it's not structured. And as someone said, we're in an environment where we have God-like technologies. But our institutions are still medieval. If you think about it, we still have the same schools, colleges, apply for licenses. All those things are still kind of medieval institutions operating in an environment where we have God-like technologies. Some of it you can see on the screen now: AI, IoT, robotics, mobile. These are things that have just entered our mind space in just the last 15, 20 years. But at the end of the day, you still have to, the godlike technology working with medieval institutions still have to work with you and me, people who are very emotional driven. And again, Manu spoke about the EQ part of it, right? Now, bringing it down to something a little bit more relevant to Cisco, that we see is that network is really the convergence platform. If you look at Reliance Jio in India, how many of you have a Jio SIM card? Assume there are 220 million of us who have a Jio SIM card in India, end-to-end built on the Cisco network. So 90% of Indians who are getting online for the first time are getting the experience powered by the network provided by Reliance. And that's really where the magic happens. And that's really where we see the convergence happening, is what used to be just a tool to connect a husband and a wife, founders. By the way, it was the 35th anniversary of Cisco yesterday. Doesn't feel like a 35-year-old company if you work inside Cisco. It was started by husband and wife who wanted to communicate across different departments in a college, right? I'm sure you have students like that who are creating the next generation of Ciscos. What started as just communication tool, connecting, switching, routing, is now really the convergence platform of choice for every vertical that is transforming. Journalism, transportation, healthcare, education, you name it. The network is the enabler of that experience, which is powering the transformation in that industry. Now, this comes with a lot of responsibility. IQ and EQ again, we have so aligned. Many of our industry speakers, we speak to each other, I think. With this, a lot of responsibility comes in terms of how we design products, how we take it to market, how do we sell it, how do we then build skills. And we just cannot do it with the analytical left brain. We also have to bring in the emotional right brain, because it's not about the technology that is transforming. You also have to work with people at the end of the day who need to find jobs, need to go back to their families, raise kids, so on. So I think this is the piece that we really try to balance at Cisco. I will start with what you see at the bottom there, which is we have a commitment to touch and positively transform 50 million lives in India by 2025. And this is kind of drives both our business objectives as well as our social objectives. I spoke about Jio, and we all know how Jio is transforming the digital experience of Indians who are coming online for the first time. We're involved in almost every single smart city that is being built in India. Just 2 days ago, you might have seen an article, Cisco working with the Gurgaon Metropolitan Development Authority to help them with their security infrastructure. We're working with other cities on their transportation infrastructure. We are working with agriculture and ag tech companies. Agriculture and technology were not two words that went together until 5 years ago. Today, ag tech is one of the hottest sectors for venture capital investments, because it still employs a significant chunk of India's population, drives a significant chunk of GDP. Anyone who's bought onions recently will know. Right? It's big news. Right? If Cisco or any other tech company increases the price of our products, will there be headline news? No. Right? That's the difference. Right? Agriculture is headline news, and technology is transforming agriculture. Right? And all of this is being enveloped in the world where security is foundational. Anyone here knows that cybersecurity is now the foundation for any new technology. across any vertical. You go talk to anybody in the government or private sector or academia. There are only two kinds of organizations in the world today: those who have been hacked and those who don't know that they have been hacked. So cybersecurity really is foundational for the transformation that we are going to drive across all of these industries. We're also investing in startups. 25 startups just was invested in India. But what we are actually more proud about is the 16 startups that we have invested in. These are non-profit startups with a digital-first DNA in transforming some of the social challenges. We've invested in a startup, non-profit startup, that is looking at why blood donation cannot be done like an Uber platform. Right? You look to your left, there is a driver. Drivers all around you if you're a customer of Uber. These are your blood donors. Why can't we build a technology platform to drive social change in simple things like that? We're invested in an organization that is changing how governments are run by providing big data analytic dashboard for free. I know there are organizations, companies that do that too. In Hyderabad, they've extended, very simple thing, they've extended the bus line that runs on the ring road in Hyderabad by 2 kilometers by providing this visualization to the bus authority there. And just by that simple decision, which took one simple signature, they served 9,600 low-income group housing that was there 2 kilometers down the road. It was enabled by technology. Akshay Patra, which is the largest midday meal program in the world, serving 2 million meals a day. Today we are digitizing all of their kitchens. Very simple act of putting wireless, connecting the drivers, connecting the delivery of raw material, supervisors, principals. Saves them 10 paisa per day, per meal. Helps them serve 28,500 additional meals a day just by that simple 10 paisa, powered by technology. So not only are these sectors that speakers before me spoke about transforming, but the social sector is also transforming because of technology. Now, what does this mean in terms of workforce readiness? This means we need to create the future-ready workforce. That is with this audience right here. What does a future-ready workforce look like? In order to be able to venture into the world 3 years, 2 years, 4 years from now, you've got to have a T-shaped professional. It's a very simple approach. You need to have multidisciplinary breadth, which means you can't just be a good programmer. You need to be someone who also understands how cybersecurity works, also understands how Oracle and the other database systems work. You need to have awareness of multiple systems. You can't just be a specialist. You can be a specialist in one system, and that is the depth part. But you need to know, if you're a specialist in agriculture, you should also be aware of what's happening in the transportation world, what's happening in the hospitality industry, what's happening in the healthcare industry, because there are a lot of synergies that can be driven between systems. So the future-ready workforce is really a T-shaped professional with interdisciplinary breadth and interdisciplinary systems thinking. All of this is driven by colleges. It starts in the college. When we work with an academic institution, our program typically resides in one floor of the electronics building or the IT department. We want to make it more interdisciplinary. Right? Bring in all of your... There is no reason why a mechanical engineer should not learn Python. Programming, as we say, is the digital literacy for any engineer. And that's the kind of thinking I think educational institutions, academicians here can really foster in order to be ready for the fast-changing world. And it's really positive changes. All the changes that we discussed, while it could be scary, there is the VUCA world people talk about, but it's really positive changes. All of the changes are incredibly positive. Quick example here, while we work with the top academic institutions, Indian Institute of Science, we signed a $1 million 3-year MOU. The example that I love is from Palampalli in Andhra Pradesh. Small town, nowhere near any tier 2 city. It's even far away from Kakinada and Rajamundry. 3 folks, 3 students, really imbibe the innovate like a technologist, think like an entrepreneur, and act like a social change approach. College supported them with everything that they had. And today, they are employed by Amazon. They're moving to Bangalore with a huge package. Right? This is from Palampalli in Andhra Pradesh. It's not a big college, not a huge town. So I think it is possible. It is possible to create T-shaped professionals everywhere in India if we have the commitment from the industry, commitment from the academic institutions to foster that, and we know the results are there. Sum it up, my time's up. It's good to see that the event name is The Bridge, because that is Cisco's tagline as well. And I think if we have an aspiration of being a $5 trillion economy and a $150 trillion economy by 2047, which is the number that we'll soon start hearing from the government, it's absolutely possible. And I think the bridge to possible is you. With that, I thank ICT Academy for an amazing event and look forward to continued engagement.